Welcome and greetings this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you all? Oh, thank you. Perfect as well. Allow me, as we have discussed, to entitle this interaction, Definition and Deservability. I will begin by reminding you that we have laid down the format that this particular interaction will comprise, perhaps you can say, part 2 of a 3-part intensive. Part 1, last month of your time, was clarifying your vision. This particular interaction, again, will be on definition and deservability, which we will discuss. And next month of your time, action. Understand what we are doing in creating the intensive in 3 parts, as this is covering the basics, shall I say, in perhaps you can say a slightly more advanced fashion, of creating your own reality consciously, conscious creatorhood. Last month of your time, we discussed your vision or your clear intention. As we have already to some degree covered, your intention locks in your reality, allows you to have say, allows you to decide, using whatever criteria that you will, what will occur in your reality. The criteria of preference allows your vision to be aligned to your passion, to your excitement. To some degree, we have discussed this and led an exercise to allow you to get in touch with what it is that truly excites you. Therefore, we will now expand upon this idea, explain certain aspects that now that you have crystallized, now that you have created your vision, you can now utilize what you already have created in your reality to a positive advantage. And through this approach, transform whatever it is that you do not prefer presently about your reality to a preferred manifestation. So first of all, we will then discuss with you the idea of definitions. For your definitions literally are how you define your reality. And perhaps you can say another way of saying what you believe about your reality. The definitions that you assign to your reality are part and parcel of the beliefs about that reality. So therefore, allow us to start in the following way. When you have clarified, established, and clarified your vision, there will be certain definitions that you may still hold, which may run contrary to the fulfillment in a positive way of that vision. Therefore, this will now be the timing upon the establishment of your clear intention, your clear vision, for many of these definitions to come up. You will see as they come up, if you allow them to deliver to you the message that they have, that you can very quickly transform any definitions that you hold about your vision, which again run contrary to the manifestation of that vision in your life as your reality. So therefore, there are perhaps particular definitions that you have bought into, and if they are contrary to your clear vision, they will come up. Step 1 is allow them to come up. We have discussed allowance. Allowance is the mechanism of true creatorhood. It is the way that you already create your reality through allowance. So therefore, allowing the definitions to come up as they will, again, perhaps the ones that run contrary to the fulfillment of your vision, and allowing yourself to acknowledge that you hold those definitions is always the first step to redefining those definitions. I remind you, when you believe something, you then feel that way. You then think that way. You then act that way. And it is ultimately those actions which then create physically into your life the manifestation that you prefer. When you establish your vision, in whatever way you find is easiest for you, whether it be mentally through dialogue, mentally through meditation, on your paper and pencil, whatever way you find that you organize your thinking at this point, utilize it in the following way. Once you have established your clear vision, your clear intention, make note of what definitions a person who is already doing that thing would have. As you begin to do this, you begin to allow yourself to see the definitions necessary to begin to manifest your clear vision in the path of least resistance. Often, as you do so, again, in whatever way your organizational skills allow, you will also, through the process of elimination, find which definitions, perhaps you can say, you would need have to establish your clear vision in reality. And then also that will be an opportunity to allow whatever definitions that you have that run contrary to that vision to come up. So allowing yourself to define the vision locks in the vision. Allowing yourself to understand what definitions a person already accomplished in that vision would have allows you to define still further how it is in your consciousness that you can reorient yourself toward, in that sense, your vision. Is this clear so far? Therefore, again, in whatever way you find most efficient, whether you write it, whether it is merely a dialogue, whether it is through your meditative state, make the time to establish what definitions one would need hold that is already doing the thing you say you wish to do. Again, allowing any definitions that you already express that run contrary to that particular definition to come out, acknowledge it, allow yourself to see as you acknowledge it that it has had you feeling a certain way, has had you thinking a certain way, and ultimately has had you acting a certain way. Those actions are the actions in your life that still run contrary to what you say you prefer. When you establish the new definitions that the preferred you, perhaps you could say, would have, you can also extrapolate in your imagination. How would a person already believing this feel? And feel that. Allow yourself to physically feel it before then moving on to the step of establishing how a person who already believes that would think. Once you allow yourself to feel that belief, the thoughts of a person with that belief will come quite clearly, quite quickly. And then allow yourself to see the actions that you would, in that sense, perform. Now, perhaps it will be obvious to some of you that to some degree we have already discussed a tool, a methodology through which much of what we are discussing is simply automatic. That is what you call the referential, preferential you. For in the creation of the you in your imagination and handing situations over to that you has the definitions that you would prefer, the definitions that reinforce the clear vision. So going about it through the referential, preferential you is one very powerful, very accessible way to get in touch with your definitions and to transform them to definitions that you already prefer. But again, even the listing of the definitions, the willingness to define clearly for yourself the definitions that your vision would necessitate, simply speed along the process. You can go at it from either way. You can do both. The referential, preferential you, again, is a tool that is part and parcel of you. You can never lose that tool. And therefore, that tool will always provide the definitions that are most conducive to do anything that you wish. If your reality appears to run contrary to your clear vision, I again remind you that a person who believes in their clear vision would contain the definition that you call persistence. Persistence is simply a matter of understanding that you intend to create this reality, and simply nothing in the external world can stop that intention. Perhaps it may not go according to the timing, perhaps it will. But if it does not, your unwillingness to give up on the idea means you can never fail. So if your reality appears contrary to what it is that you say you desire, maintain that clear vision and drum up or allow to come to the surface any definitions that would suggest otherwise. For your definitions will either reinforce your clear vision, or they may seem at times to be at odds with it if those definitions are not the most conducive definitions for that vision. Again, your life will let you know. If you always remember that you can trace back to your definitions through how you feel, through how you think, and through how you act, your life will always be your barometer. Either you can, as you say, catch it as an emotion that perhaps you do not prefer, but if you find yourself still to some degree seemingly automatically performing non-preferred actions, which we will discuss in more detail, understand that those actions in and of themselves also can be used to trace back to the most expressed definition in that moment. You truly act as though you are the person who believes whatever it is you believe. So you can use your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions to define what you must be believing in that moment. Now, allow me to draw a distinction, which, again, we will expand on in a future interaction. When you say, I believe this, and I do not believe perhaps its opposite, understand, you contain both beliefs. Otherwise, you would not be able to draw the distinction. Any belief that you do not prefer and do not wish to express, your ability to even think of it means you contain it. So it is not a matter of getting rid of this belief and having that belief. You have all beliefs. It is a matter of which belief are you expressing in your life. Everything that you believe and everything that you do not say you believe still exists within you. I remind you, there is no outside. Therefore, you contain all beliefs. The ones that are having an effect on your life in any given moment are the beliefs that you are expressing from all of the beliefs that exist within you. So if you say, well, I must believe this, I remind you, you also contain the opposite belief. And therefore, it is merely a matter of which belief do you express. And I again remind you that you express your beliefs through your emotions, thoughts, and actions. Remembering this truly gives you back your power, for you understand that you contain all definitions. It is not a matter of needing to get rid of the ones you do not prefer. Simply choosing and expressing the ones that you do not, while not invalidating the beliefs you do not prefer. Expressing the beliefs you do prefer and not invalidating the beliefs that you do not. Whenever you create anything in your life, you are expressing a belief. But you also contain that opposite belief in every given moment. I tell you this to simply allow you to see the degree to which you do have complete power, to which you do contain it all. And it is simply a matter of which beliefs you express as to which ones will have a result or an effect in your life. So allow yourself to come to terms with what definitions would behoove your vision and allow your life to deliver any definition which is not in alignment with that vision. And embrace yourself for delivering the non-preferred definitions. Do not berate or judge yourself. You are handing yourself back your power, not showing yourself your shortcomings, unless you label it that way. Therefore, you can get either effect. But if you understand that your reality is handing you back the keys to drive, perhaps you can say, the vehicle of your life in a preferred direction, you may rejoice when something negative comes up. Not because you embrace the negative aspects of it, not because you condone it, but because only now is it back in your power to redefine. Any definition that you are achieving a result from is simply the definition you are expressing. But I remind you again that you contain all definitions. Now that you know this, it is up to you to exercise your ability to respond, your responsibility, with the preferred definition or not. And should an unpreferred definition come up, embrace it and allow yourself to utilize its timing of presenting itself to you to be your perfect timing to replace it and express the new preferred definition or belief. Therefore, again, your reality on a silver platter will hand you any definition that is no longer representative of who you choose to be. If you run and sulk, it will simply seem to be, in that sense, obstacles in your path. If you embrace it, allow yourself to feel it, glean the definition, choose a new definition, allow yourself to feel that, allow yourself to see how you would think with the new definition, allow yourself to see how you would act with the new definition, and act as a person with the new definition would act. You are transforming your reality through exactly the same mechanism that you already for your entire life have created it. Therefore, there are no new skills to bone up on, simply the willingness to once again allow your reality to transform by presenting to you these various definitions which no longer serve you. Therefore, that, for the most part, will cover the idea of definition. Allow us now to discuss another ability that you all have. And that is one of the reasons that even in your language, this is called deservability. This is not something that you need to go get. This is, again, a definition within you that I, in that sense, challenge you to express. You have the ability to understand that you deserve to create the reality that you prefer, particularly if that reality is within integrity, for then it will harm no one else, will harm not you, and everyone in that sense is served. You exist. This is one of your primary qualities, merely that you exist. That brings along with it the automatic ability to know that you must obviously deserve to exist. Otherwise, how did you get here? Did you slip in a crack of creation? No. You expressed the definition of the fact that you deserve to exist by taking the action of incarnating as this life. And because you are an expression of all that is, which is not truly separate from you, but you sometimes view it this way, always bequeaths that you deserve to exist. The only one who ever, in that sense, entertains the reciprocal definition is each and every one of you. For again, because you contain all beliefs, it is not accurate to say, I only contain the belief that I do not deserve anything, And it is not accurate to say, I only contain the belief that I do deserve everything. You contain both beliefs. Therefore, you have the choice of which one to express. And you can allow your reality through the feedback of your actions, thoughts, and emotions to allow you to know in any given moment if you are expressing that you deserve or if you are expressing that you do not deserve. Either way, you are expressing one or the other. There is no outside that judges you. Because all that is 100% non-failingly, unconditionally loving. You simply cannot screw up in the eyes of all that is. Everything goes. That is what unconditional love means. Therefore, the only one who can assign that you do not deserve anything is you. Now, you may perhaps say, well, others seem to very willingly in my society define that I do not deserve this or that. But understand, when someone says that to you, if you do not believe it, it simply is an empty statement with no effect. If you feel an effect from it, that is not them influencing you. That is them providing a reflection that somewhere within you, you still match that vibration. You can only feel your matching of the vibration. And in that moment, you still contain the belief that you deserve it all. You are simply expressing the belief that you do not. Do you understand the distinction? Therefore, deservability, your ability to deserve, is simply a given. And you can express or revoke that particular designation. No one else, nothing else can. And again, if you are expressing, I deserve to exist, I deserve to create a life of ecstasy with integrity, then anything that anyone says to you will simply be, thank you, but no thank you. I appreciate what you are saying. I will take it under advisement. If I feel in that sense that changes need be made, I thank you. If not, I still thank you. You have reflected to me flawlessly. And not patronizingly, but if you sincerely are willing to thank the messenger, it is perhaps you can say a most integrated alternative to shooting the messenger. And I mean this in any way that it will come, any definition that is delivered to you in your life. You can blame the definition, shoot the messenger, or you can understand that the messenger has served a purpose. Embrace the messenger. Perhaps catch the messenger off guard, but that is all right. That is what you will begin to express as you choose integration. When you begin to express integration, you will not only understand that your ability to deserve is up to you to express, but you will also begin to see the deservability in others. Perhaps others that you had heretofore judged, for they too have the right and reason. All that is, obviously thinks so. All that is, loves them unconditionally. Now you can begin to exercise that same unconditionality. Now you can begin to once again recognize the divinity. Perhaps you can say it is an expression, I will therefore use it, in each individual. And with that divinity comes unconditional love, comes deservability, and comes a set of express definitions. You can always use anything that is offered to you in any form in a positive way. Now, many times you assume that perhaps there are a few things in your reality which simply have no way to assign a positive label to. Understand, everything is synchronicity. And If you say you are willing to assign a positive meaning, sometimes your reality will see if you are really serious about that and give you many opportunities to assign positive meanings. This may seem like an obnoxious inconvenience. It is one of your greatest opportunities for accelerated growth. I, in that sense, revel in communicating with a room full of third transitional fourth density beings. What will express more of the fourth density perspective, the more unlimited physical perspective, is to establish your vision, clarify your definitions, be clear about expressing your ability to deserve, and ultimately clear action, which again we will delineate upon further later. That is all. When you feel you are in third, shall I say, density, limited physical reality, you still contain the definition of fourth and are simply expressing the limited point of view. You are so limitless that you can impose extreme limitations upon yourself. I understand this seems like a paradox, seems like an irony, but only could that be possible with the great power, not that you have, but the great power that you are. You express that power in each and every given moment of your life. So great is that power that you even have the ability to forget completely that it is your power and assign that power, one piece at a time, to persons, places, and things within your reality. That is merely one definition. It is happening to me is a definition you all contain, but it is happening from me is also a definition that you all contain and are beginning to express more and more. Once you constantly express that, that will be all you know experientially. And you will be fourth density literally right here, right now. Simply continue to grant yourself deservability. You have struggled hard enough, long enough. Even if you buy into the dues paying mentality, you're paid up. Therefore, you need not use that definition to hold yourself back any longer. Everything is due now. Now is the only time you ever exist. Now is the time you can transform. And I remind you to now be mindful of what you are expressing without invalidating it. At this timing, I wish to thank you all for your willingness to continue to entertain communications from our stream and to entertain us as well. You are all, as you say in your colloquial slang, a riot. We are a light race, we are a happy race, and you have brought us great joy. We thank you, for it is a gift in that sense that means the universe to us. In return for your willingness to function as my equal, I thank you. I express my unconditional love and ask you how we may mutually be of service to each other. Shedding female than male.
I can't believe that I didn't know what the definition of tonight was going to be, but my whole little share...
Now, yes, you did.
I know.
But do continue.
My sharing that I was going to share fits right along with these lines, and I just suddenly realized that not only am I the messenger, but I am the message.
Nice.
And in my dreams, when I keep trying to run with this message to warn people, I am the message I have to give back to myself.
Well, the people running from you are simply you. Everything is you in the dream. So therefore, embrace deliver the message to yourself.
And I am only a victim of myself.
Well, when you create that dichotomy, but ultimately because you are the creator, it is simply an elaborate, shall I say, game that you choose to play. Ultimately, you are not a victim.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
And as long as I get this out before my deservability runs out, then
Now. As a simple reminder, before you then express the reciprocal, it never runs out. Literally, it is infinite. Literally, your cup do floweth over. Therefore, proceed.
well, I would just like to share with you something that I have discovered along the deservability lines. I've been having a lot of trouble in the last 6 months with intestinal grips of one sort or another. Every time I eat, I get indigestion right after it. I've had headaches in my head, and I've just become so frustrated because I thought to myself, what must I be believing to be having all this difficulty? And I came up with the belief that I really don't deserve to exist, that I really don't love myself. And what happens is, I'm very fond of food. I don't have to be hungry at all. If food is in front of me, I devour it. And it's the pleasure of eating the food seems to get stuffed down onto the belief that I'm not all right. In other words, first of all, I don't believe I deserve to exist, and I don't love myself.
Well, I remind you, you believe what you have just said, and you believe it's reciprocal. And I am pointing this out emphatically for a reason. Do proceed.
So I've pushed down the feeling first, then I put the food on top of it, and both of them are very disgruntled inside of me, and they're not doing their purpose one way or the other. And so I'm resulting in all these things that are going wrong inside my body. So then I feel guilty for having eaten the food to get rid of the feeling, so the whole thing just keeps recapitulating itself.
Well, not really. You are participating. It does not recapitulate itself. Allow me to ask you a simple question. In regards to your deservability, and listen to the wording, what is it that you are still holding on to?
That's a tough one.
Well, not really. Allow it to be obvious. If you feel comfortable, simply share.
It seems stronger or more powerful to hang on to the fear or to try to control the fear than to allow either my feelings to come out or other people's feelings to come toward me.
Now, why?
Because when I was a little girl, I had no choice. And when I was abused, I had no power to control it. So I find myself trying to control it.
That was the apparency, yes. However, now you do. Even in a similar circumstance, which is quite unlikely to come along, now you do. So what do you wish to express in this moment? The obvious fact that you do, or as you have continued to do, recapitulate the fact that you do not. Now you contain both beliefs, but you are now able to express the preferred belief. And it is simply a matter of letting go. And in the process, are you listening?
Yes.
Forgiving yourself. You had chosen to explore something. It may not be completely obvious what, although it has become more obvious. You continue to ascribe blame to yourself for exercising that degree of power to be willing to be brave enough to explore that particular idea. If you are willing to forgive yourself and understand, even if it is not completely obvious in this moment, that you know what you're doing, you will release what you are holding on to. And you will feel the forgiveness seeming to also come exteriorly. But it first, in that sense, must come from you. Are you willing to forgive yourself?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No. It seems like I had it figured out in my mind that if all that is perfectly creating at all times, then all our little cells that are constantly renewing themselves inside our body, in other words, all that is knows no manifestation of disease or anything. And if we were...
Well, all that is does contain that expression as well, but does not tend to choose it personally. Again, this is quite colloquial. But everything in creation is within all that is, and is allowed, literally, particularly if it seems negative, only through the unconditional love. Perhaps you can say all that is says, I love you no matter what. Even if you do this to yourself, even if you do this to yourself, I still love you. So it boils down to your willingness to grant yourself that same respect. And what you are holding on to is self-blame. And blaming an external, perhaps you can say, person as well. But only will you even find within you any ability to forgive anyone else when you first forgive yourself. Forgiveness is expressing your divinity. You are that beauty. And what you are feeling is you, not me. I am simply eliciting from you what you already contain. Feel it. That is how the preferred definition feels. And begin to see, while you are feeling it, subtle differences in how you might now act. Allow the cycles of your life to simply be natural, not normal. Normal is a judgment call. Natural is who you are. If you feel like eating something, eat it. It excites you, eat it. Don't bring along the baggage with it, and you may find that it then excites you to take the very walk that in that sense, as you say, burns the calories as an example. But do not hang yourself up. Your willingness to forgive yourself, and then in that sense, by extension, all others involved. Not condoning anything, but simply letting go of the blame and taking back your ability from this point forward to respond, taking back your responsibility from this point forward, is all you need do to create the effect you prefer. Is this of service?
Yes, it is. So by blocking my emotions, when you talk about our flow, are you talking about our flow of all our emotions functioning in this nice smooth pattern, nothing being out of sync? Is that what's causing the upsets and the disease in people? And
well, in general, it is simply denial itself, denial of ideas, denial of certain beliefs that are denied for so long that they seem, in that sense, to bring on their own momentum. Anything you deny strives, in that sense, to come to your attention so that you can transform it. And the more you continue to deny it, the more, shall I say, power you actually imbue it with. Now, dis-ease, again, and the reasons for creating such a symbol are as numerous as the individuals that do it. But understand also that it is not an expression of weakness to create dis-ease. It is an expression of extreme power. And this will also assist you in understanding, when assisting individuals with dis-ease, that it is a disservice to them to feel sorry for them, for that matches their own sense of feeling helpless. You can have compassion and, in that sense, reinforce at the same time their power. That is truly compassion. So therefore, treat yourself with that respect.
well, it seemed to me that as we are creating our bodies perfectly, our body knows how to do that already. If we harbor a lot of denial and guilt and all that kind of thing, so that we have dysfunction going on, then the genes and the little cells are not renewing themselves perfectly anymore, but with this disease manifestation. And I wondered if that's how disease came about, but you just...
Well, understand that there can be these physical counterpart occurrences. But understand, because you exist fully, always in the now, no matter how much momentum that may seem to have, no matter how much time you may have created to seem to have developed it, you can cure yourself, realign yourself immediately in any given moment. And all those quote-unquote physical, shall I say, echoes will simply seem to have quote-unquote miraculously disappeared. And there are many examples of this in your society.
Yes, there are.
Therefore, if you, in that sense, picture yourself as the picture of health, begin to use the fact that we have pointed out and discussed that a person with that picture would have particular definitions. Allow yourself to dialogue and go through this, for you will find your own specific significances in this regard. Allow your emotions to come up. Perhaps you may wish to sit, if they are negative emotions, alone in a room, in a chair, but allow them to come up. Only when you express your emotions do they deliver the message on their wings.
So allowance is the power.
And denial is a contracted state of being. Acknowledgement is an open, allowing state of being. You have a physical counterpart to that closing down.
I just want to thank you so much for all the times you've answered my questions.
All right, then repeat after me. All right?
Yes.
I
I
thank
thank
myself.
me.
Thank you. You're welcome.
If I were to give Andrew a hug right now, would you feel it? And would you feel my energy, and would I feel yours?
The idea is that that will be up to you, but the sentiment has already been received, and we understand the significance, so the physical, shall I say, feedback is not necessary.
No, I just wondered if I would feel your energy, you know.
Again, that would be completely up to you, for I remind you that whenever you do, you are simply matching it and creating your own version of it anyway. Perhaps you would choose that symbol to create it. You can simply do so where you are sitting.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace.
greetings.
And to you.
I have two burning questions.
Oh, burning. Oh, perhaps you wish to adjust your climate controls.
In the previous intensive, I entered that night with only one exciting career idea, the water fuel cell, and I had nothing to replace it as far as a currently available excitement.
Not true.
But when I left that night, I had one. Thank you very much. I had one that came upon and happened, and through Frank Dixon that was here that night. And it has to do with a job in Washington, D.C., working for every electric power research institute that serves the electric utility industry. I am extremely interested in it, extremely qualified in that position. They're very, very close to making their final choice as to who gets that job. I have not been able thus far to even get a face-to-face interview.
Now, you are not going to ask for another prediction, are you?
No. Oh, no.
Do proceed.
Can you help me
Ace.
get an opportunity? If I get a face-to-face interview, I am confident I can convince them I am the right man for that job.
Do understand. When I say everything is synchronicity, I truly mean that. Therefore, should you, in that sense, have such an interview, you will, in that sense, perhaps impress certain individuals. But regardless of the outcome, do not assume that to be any less synchronicity. Now, I am not, in that sense, setting you up. I am not saying that the outcome will be unpreferred. Simply that no matter what it is a result of certain actions taken through excitement, through sincerity, and allow anything that occurs to be interpreted positively and acted upon positively, and you cannot fail to find what it is you are seeking. A bit general, but that is the best I will do.
I believe that night, it was, quote, no accident that happened that night, and I went away with something that totally surprised me and feels so good to me.
Ice, but we have discussed with you, perhaps in other instances, allow it to be what it is, not what you insist or assume it must be. Perhaps that capsulates the point that I am making. Do you understand?
I think so. I will learn from this experience, regardless of which way it goes.
Ice.
But it feels so right.
Well, no matter what happens, to go one step further, it is leading you toward something very exciting, no matter what happens. Nothing from this point forward is an interruption in the path that you are, unless you assign that, and then, shall I say, hang yourself up. So be open, acknowledge and allow what occurs to be perfect, and keep your eyes open for any quote-unquote peripheral opportunities that also exist.
Good advice. Thank you for that.
Oh.
Question number 2.
Number 2, burning question.
As you probably know, a couple of weeks ago, June 10th, my brother died. Okay. And I guess my first question is, can you please tell me whatever you can about his status right now?
One moment. Is in that sense what you would colloquially refer to as period of orientation, is beginning to get, shall I say, the understanding that he has actually died. There was a degree of denial around this at first. Some of the information that we had shared in that sense was expressed and used by him. So there is a degree of orientation now occurring.
A couple months ago, I had an input that maybe the emotional and physical discomfort that he had been experiencing really for quite a few months and even 2 or 3 years maybe was him sort of cleaning up, being cleansed of accumulated karma that had accumulated over the last several lifetimes and getting that resolved this lifetime. Is he aware of what's happened here since he's passed away? Is that something that...
Perhaps you will understand that from that point of view, he is beginning to understand the service that certain people had been to in the physical life that perhaps at the time he had interpreted as malintent.
Yeah, very, very appropriate, because we ended up having him confined against his will for 13 days, and he decided that maybe I was malcontent, if you will. And so for the last 3 or 4 months since that date, he chose not to communicate with me, which is okay, because we had tremendous communication before that.
And understand in no uncertain terms that individuals, again, in the, perhaps you can say colloquially, in-between state, do not generally fixate on but one minute portion or time frame within the physical life. So again, perhaps you are quite accurate in understanding that there is the entire understanding of the life.
Well, very good. Thank you very much.
And to you. Setting.
Elan.
Ace.
Good evening.
And to you. Greetings.
Just before you started talking this evening, I saw your face in my mind. You were very smiling.
Well, we constantly, in that sense, are available in that way.
Well, I have a question too. Maybe I wouldn't call it a burning question, but it's a really important.
Lukewarm. All right.
It's an important question to me. In line with what you were talking about this evening, when you have an excitement or a goal and things, and then you find yourself maybe in an unpreferred situation, like I guess my question would be, from your perspective, I don't have anyone signed up for my tours yet, and I would like to, perhaps they would be in Mexico, right?
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In your thought patterns,
Yeah.
do you find yourself continuing to express and reassert your intention, or in some form continuing to repeat, regardless of how you word it, no one's signing up, no one's signing up, no one's signing up? Understand the point?
Yeah, I do.
Your clear intention is just that. Something that you establish and you maintain.
Mm-hmm.
There comes a point in your reality when you begin to consciously create, whereby you will have a choice. Are you going to, quote unquote, listen to the clear intention as the establishment of your purpose, or are you going to listen to the circumstances in your life which seem to run contrary to the clear intention.
I see.
And that is the crux of this matter. Simply maintaining that clear intention and allowing yourself to visualize them signing up. And every time you find yourself saying, no one's signing up, understand the universe takes you literally. When you say that, you believe it. You are stating it. Perhaps you do not intend to state it as a premise for the universe to fulfill, but the universe takes things quite literally. So if you find yourself saying that, at least provide the reciprocal. You contain, again, both beliefs. No one's signing up, and it's bustling at the seams. If you are going to constantly reaffirm the negative, at least follow it up with, perhaps you can say, a booster shot of the preference.
And another tack on.
One moment. And also, again, realize it is up to you to decide to allow your clear intention to be the feedback or the reality. The reality is a neutral set of props, and only when you assign that things are going contrary to your clear intention do you then seem to create that apparency. Now proceed.
And another aspect of that would be to trust in the timing.
Well, that is automatic, for the timing will always be quite obvious. Either it's right there or it is not. If it is not obviously that moment, there is something else that you can do, which is more constructive toward your clear intention. That is the degree of trust that we are speaking of.
Okay, following that a step further, when I meditated about this, I did several times, and I saw myself as an image. I think it was me. It was a woman with a flowered dress, and her back was to me, and then she turned. Then the next image was a woman facing me, and she had flowers, but it was a flowered material, but it was a suit. And then further images were specific flowers. One was of a rose, and I very clearly saw the leaves. And I'm doing, lots of gardening these days, and it's something that's giving me a lot of joy.
Well, you are doing something else as well. Blossoming. Allow yourself to blossom according to preference, according to clear intention. And again, do not allow your reality, an apparency, a frozen moment in time, so to speak, to talk you out of it. It is that simple. Is this of service?
Yes.
Does something else come up?
It occurred to me that the reason that I saw the further images of specific flowers, and then that evening, and then as I went on into that evening, I guess maybe half in and half out of a dream state, and the next mornings, I saw other flowers or leaves and things. And so it occurred to me that this was also a clue to connect more consciously with those specific flowers or plants that I had seen.
All right. You are again one with these symbols. Allow them as messengers to deliver your version of that message as well. We thank you.
Thank you very much.
Female.
Oh, oops.
Oh, oops. All right. Did you slip?
No. Oh boy. Okay. Well, this topic is great. I've actually been doing some of those things that you talked about, and they've been incredible in terms of my transforming negatives and embracing negatives and turning them into positives. And it's been really, I won't say incredible.
Quite credible, yes.
Quite credible. Wonderful.
And understand, it was in that sense then for you a simple reinforcement.
Yes. Kind of about simple, but yeah.
Very simple, but it is up to you. You can complicate your life as much as you wish.
But it was the experience I had last week, having messages come to me and actually choosing to allow them as opposed to deny them because they were so horrendous to even believe were inside of me.
But what did you find?
I found when I actually let them play on the screen as I watched them and listened, that there was a tremendous release and things just shifted.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Was it then obvious that in no way could they ever overcome you? And that it was merely the fear to face them that seemed overcoming, and not actually the beliefs themselves?
Yes.
That is part of the allowance of providing yourself with definitions that you may wish to change. Understanding in no uncertain terms that nothing that you create is not handleable.
You're right, it was easy because I marveled in that moment at how easily they transformed.
Oh, again, the complexity, the feeling of complexity comes from the fear to face them, which is again a supposition, perhaps you can say, of a worst case scenario, rather than the definitions themselves. And only can you transform those definitions once you face them. So reminding you that you do not create anything that you cannot handle, and reminding you that nothing within you can overcome you without your permission, will generally loosen the atmosphere to allow you to begin to evaluate your definitions. Do proceed.
And more things came up for me in a dream that night, and it was like a tape that just kept going, showing me things as I kept thanking myself for these wonderful messages. But I guess I'm not even sure what I want to ask you.
Well, that was a beautiful sharing.
Yeah, thank you. But it came up before with this first lady, and forgiveness is I do know that forgiving is divine, and I know that I've touched forgiveness in a dream, and I felt an incredible freedom, and I guess I felt divinity.
People will generally assume that they must bequeath forgiveness. In fact, you continue to bequeath blame. So in a sense, another way of saying forgiving is ceasing to continue to assign blame.
Okay.
It is actually far easier to discontinue the assignment of blame than to continue it. It actually requires effort to continue it.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of energy too. And I guess...
And keeps you thinking about the very thing you say you don't prefer.
Right. So if I know I'd like to, well, I guess I don't feel this. I'd like to let go of the blame because I know that's the only way to release myself and be freer to be who I am in my own life.
All right.
Something's stopping me, obviously something inside me.
Now, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you sure? Many times individuals will assign, through the assumption of a something, a block based on nothing but the assumption of a something. Ultimately, were you to say to me, how can I forgive myself? My, shall I say, most empowering and accurate answer would be, go right ahead. That is all there is to it. And if you then find yourself assigning blame, remind yourself, I forgave that individual. I am assigning blame, therefore I am functioning from this set of definitions, and then go through the aforementioned, perhaps you can say, drumming up of the preferred definitions in whatever your favorite form is.
I think you're losing me.
Oh, simply forgive. It is that simple. And if you find yourself then blaming, deal with it in the moment, reminding yourself that you have forgiven and that in that moment, I am creating blame. Therefore, I can choose to see what definitions I must hold in this moment to be creating that blame and realign yourself with the forgiveness.
Well, the thing that comes to mind here in concrete terms is when I think about I forgive and the freedom that brings, the little other voice says, which is all in me, they don't deserve to be forgiven.
Oh, right. Well, perhaps you may understand that these voices are both ideas that exist within you.
Right.
You get to sit in the middle and choose. The one that says they don't deserve it has no more power. And ultimately, since you choose which one to heed, all the power is with you. Are you willing to take that degree of responsibility for your reality?
Well, I realize that there must be a reason why I'm holding on to that belief. maybe the other one is too freeing.
Well, maybe again, there is not a reason, and it is simply a tendency because of what you have sensed you have gotten out of it. But when you express the forgiveness and see what you get out of that, it will simply be no contest. Because you contain both beliefs, anytime you express one belief, yes, it will bring along evidence that gives it weight. But you are the one expressing the belief, creating the evidence. You are the one believing, then seeing. So providing the reciprocal will, in general, provide a more preferable way to look at it and allow you to remind yourself and realign with the fact that you no longer assign any blame anywhere because you create your own reality.
Right.
And they deserve whatever they feel they deserve anyway, no matter what you say. They also have that ability to deserve or that ability to seem as though they do not. That is not your business.
Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, thank you. Will that do?
I think so for now. Thank you.
Shedding.
Yes, Elan.
Greetings.
Greetings. I had a similar instance,
Oh, how synchronous.
and the forgiveness of the perpetrators was pretty easy. The hard thing was thanking them for assisting me in my experience.
Well, if you say so. But without that messenger, that message would not have been delivered. And as I have often drawn the distinction of, forgiving is not the same as condoning. Condoning is doing the same thing. That is why you are free to entertain any belief and any thought and evaluate any ideology. If you are not doing that thing, you are not condoning it. The ultimate condonement is the action of the thing. I'll show them how it feels, is condoning what they've just done by showing them, look, you must be onto something, I'm doing it too. Therefore, you can forgive them, understand they function from their own helplessness, forgive yourself and understand that you have gained insight from the experience, and move on. Proceed.
Well, I did that last weekend.
All right. You're a bit ahead of me.
No, I'm saying I went back and I took a look and see what I made up, and
Understood.
I got with that. But you gave me new insight into these two gentlemen.
Now, do understand that I assume they are no longer physically in your life.
No, they're not.
So therefore, they will provide a reflection of who you are right now. But in general, whatever you quote unquote suppose about them may not be at all accurate and will simply aid you in your own exploration. The fact that they are no longer physically present shows you that you are no longer of the vibration to physically deal with it.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's true. They'll never show up in my life.
So perhaps you may release them upon forgiving them and need perhaps focus on your contribution to the interaction rather than theirs.
So who is showing up for me are people that are holding on to those same beliefs that I had.
Well, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you feel as though your words carry more weight having gone through it yourself?
Absolutely.
So therefore, is that not at least one obvious way that it has served you and others as well?
Yes. Very
Are you listening up back there? Beth?
Yes.
All right. Is that all?
Yes.
I thank you. Shutting. Yes.
Quick question.
All right, quick question. Time's up. Next question. Not quick enough. Do proceed.
Last month, we, on the second part of the session, we all looked at our clear intentions. There are two symbols I saw that I just wanted your perspective.
All right.
One is when I was walking towards the building where I guess we're going to look at the TV that had our clear intentions. There's a Bengal tiger
Ice.
to the right side of me.
Very strong symbol of the inner strength within you and your ability to express a less limited life, a fourth density perspective. Do proceed.
What was that last part you just said?
A fourth density perspective, which again is still being physical, still having a body, but being less limited and expressing your limitlessness to a higher degree.
Second symbol was a kangaroo that came to my other side, my left,
Oh,
hopping around. I don't really know the significance of that.
oh. Well, what is your first impression of that symbol?
Perceptions of the kangaroo's playful.
Well, what else? What is more obvious than that?
I guess because the kangaroo came up to me and was attracted to me. I don't know. It was more obvious.
Oh.
He was just hopping around.
Was what you called its pouch empty or full?
I don't know.
All right. Next time, in that sense, that you reflect inward, take a look. And your answer will lie within that pouch.
Assuming it is full, what would the significance of that be?
Very sneaky. Now, in a sense, I need not be rigid, but I have assigned you homework. And you are already asking for the answers. Enjoy the exploration. All right.
If I asked you, assuming it's empty.
I would revel at your resourcefulness and maintain a mute perspective.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You may all pause for a short break. All right, I'll say, continue sharing. Ace.
Morning of our intensive a month ago, I woke up, and when I opened my eyes, in front of my face, floating in front of the bed, were two long sticks. One of the stick on the left had a very strange cap on it. It was a spiraling pattern of equal diameter. The cap was maybe about 5 inches high. And it got my attention. The impression I got was that they were two staffs. And I had a very strong feeling of some Egyptian influence on the cap, on the staff, on the left. I'm more than a little baffled. I was wondering if you could offer any insight.
Well, to some degree, you have offered it all, and they will, in that sense, represent, perhaps you can say, staffs. In and of themselves, quite the neutral symbol, but throughout your history, many individuals ascribe certain quote-unquote powers to them. One would represent what you call Egyptian life. Another would represent what perhaps you will call wandering nomadic desert life.
Why were there two, and why was the one on the left with this ornamental top to it, and the one on the right without?
The strongest recognition that we find to be apparent is that one will very strongly represent a very limited, mundane, so to speak, presentation of life whereby you demonstrated none of your personal power. The other, in that sense, will represent exploration and awakening from within.
So they're both my staffs, and I get to choose which one I hike with?
Perhaps you will understand that both will now serve you, however, only in a symbolic sense. One, in that sense, to represent your connection to your spiritual self. The other, again, as other symbols that you have very creatively in that way created, symbolizing the grounding.
What was the significance of that cap on the one on the left? Was there a specific message in that was Egyptian related?
Very specific, however, perhaps it will behoove you to avail yourself of your literature, for you will find it to be, shall I say, out there, and then find it to be familiar when you find it. Then many of the questions that you are asking will simply become apparent.
More homework. Good.
Home fun.
In terms of deservability, I'm going off to try and after our next session at the end of July, I'm going off to explore the four corners of the Southwest to try and see if I can develop a lifestyle, which of course most of my friends tell me is impossible and I'm out of my mind.
All right, well, then you will go and try to do so.
Which of course makes it very exciting. And
All right, well, you need not try. That is from their perspective that it is something unobtainable. You may simply do, for it is who you are.
yeah, I'm not the nomadic nature of what I'm considering makes me wonder if the staffs aren't in some way related.
The idea is to not lose your connection on either end. Being grounded at the cost of the spiritual orientation has one effect. Being spiritual without grounding it has another effect. What will allow you to live most effortlessly and efficiently is understanding that spirituality and physicality are simply the same thing. Physicality is a version of spirituality. You need not draw the separation and can simply live spiritually through the choice of the physicality and need not have one at the cost of the other.
What I wanted to do was to try and be able to have a base camp, as it were, out in the mountains of southern Colorado or northern Arizona, depending on what I find, and be able to maintain my business here on the East Coast, which is primarily what everyone is telling me is not going to be able to take place. When you and I spoke 3 or 4 months ago, you told me that I had a number of leaps of faith coming up. I expect this is probably just another one.
Well, you need not look at it as such a, shall I say, tenuous and unobtainable thing requiring such a leap, but in a sense, you may understand it to be a manifestation of that sentiment. The simple, perhaps you can say, analogy in your language is simply go for it.
I was reading some Alice Bailey material in which they talk about something that is referred to as the law of substance. And I found it...
Define.
Well, what they described it as is that the universe is unlimited in its bountifulness. It has the ability to give everything to everyone that they ever desired.
If they believe they deserve it, yes.
Right, if they believe they deserve it. But one of the keys that they were pointing out was that to think of it as a vertical column of warehouses, and unless you take from the warehouse and use it in integrity and in love, the doors above will not open for you.
Well, that is an analogy. Perhaps, again, therefore, bound to some of the limitations of it as an analogy, but we understand the sentiment.
I was wondering if you could expound on that, because basically what they're saying is that, or the impression I got was that, along the lines of a leap of faith, that by reaching for something, the universe will give it to you, but if you do not reach for it, it will not be given to you on a silver platter.
Perhaps the point is this. Expressing trust, perhaps you can say, is a sentiment. But where it then comes back to your ability to respond is when through that trust, you attract an opportunity or a situation that then requires your action. Therefore, your willingness to be spontaneous, to remain open-minded, and to act when you can, continuing to place your clear intention, continuing to imbue your clear intention, but not waiting in that sense, as you sometimes societally say, for that safe to fall upon your head, allowing the opportunities that come along that are unique to the persons, again, places, and perhaps events or things occurring to be acted upon by you wherever possible. Therefore, trust truly is not necessarily completely passive and is an action in and of itself. Also understand what you call abundance is a flow. And as something in that sense, makes itself known to you or makes itself available to you, it does so so that you can do something with it. That continues the flow. That, in a sense, leaves the doors open. But in that sense, if you hoard or save up in that sense, you are stopping that flow. Now, we are not saying go out and spend all your savings. Understand you have very rigid definitions around it. But you may, in that sense, as you begin to follow your excitement, no longer feel the need for a backup. Again, though, the point is that the abundance is a flow, which is ever enlisting and enrolling your action. Your willingness to, so to speak, rise to the occasion is all you need to, and will, because it will present itself through exciting possibilities, be quite effortless once you allow yourself to see that the mechanism actually works.
So in other words, by trusting and following my excitement, by going out, taking this trip and exploring the capabilities of leading a nomadic life between two or more cities in this country, that because it is following my excitement, that I should understand and believe that if it is meant to be, then the means will make themselves available.
Well, again, also perhaps you may understand that the fact that it excites you is the sign that you have been asking for, and also allows you to know you are amply able to fulfill it.
Thank you.
Oh, I thank you. And again, remind you that while doing so, you may find you give yourself the choice to allow yourself to ascribe to your clear intention, or allow particular things in your reality which may come up to talk you out of your intention. It will always be your choice and ability to continue to express the clear intention and not allow any seeming evidence to talk you out of it.
Oh, I'm very stubborn.
Oh, persistent,
Oh,
perhaps,
excuse me, persistent.
would be a bit more, shall I say, dynamic.
Thank you, Elan.
Oh, I thank you as well. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace, male, then female.
I wanted to ask you about, I work for a program back in Rhode Island called Shake a Leg,
Define.
and it is a holistic program for spinal cord injured young men and women.
Oh,
And I do body work on them, and I'm going to be taking them through a seminar in another week or so. And I wanted to get a little information about spinal cord injury and why, from a metaphysical perspective, certain individuals would manifest that condition, and what they can do with it, or how they can use it in a positive way. I want to give them some insights into why they are in this position in these wheelchairs.
well, again, understand the numerous amount of them, again, suggests that there are that many reasons that individuals would do so. But one opportunity will be that individuals will show themselves their great power because, physically speaking, your body completely has the ability to regenerate those facilities. And the only thing that, shall I say, results in individuals not doing so is the societal notion. One societal notion that perhaps is less prevalent, but has been heretofore bought into very strongly, is that what you call your brain tissue, your nervous tissue, could not regenerate as other areas of your body do. This is plain and simply not accurate. It has that potential completely. What releases that potential is the trust and understanding that it has that ability. What seems to inhibit that potential is buying into a bill of goods. Well, everyone knows you can't heal that. Every single individual who has this, through persistence and clear intention, has the potential ability to heal it. The timing will vary. Often because of the degree to which individuals buy into it, it can, in that sense, seem to take much time. But nevertheless, individuals who do not do so have simply accepted their sentence, so to speak.
Yes. Have some of them manifested this for specific reasons and purposes?
some to overcome it, some in that sense express their creativity and their creatorhood, even though that is considered by your society to be a handicap. Many individuals are, in that sense, living proof that it is simply a different choice or focus.
Right. It also seems to tie into what you said about disease and not feeling sorry for them. They seem to be very strong individuals, especially in this program, because they've done much more with their lives than the average person in a wheelchair.
Well, you will understand that they will very strongly represent, again, through that persistence, those who should choose to, the degree to which you all have the power to persist. And again, that it takes great strength to create and experience limitation.
Right. So is there anything else that I could do for them or to help them to understand or...
Speak to them with that understanding. Speak to them with the complete confidence in their power, and perhaps allow yourself to feel the admiration to the degree that they have expressed that power. That is something that perhaps they are not accustomed to.
Yes, that's true.
So therefore, it would be taking it the next step, so to speak.
So is there any specific themes that go along with why you would choose in this lifetime to be spinal cord injured?
There are, again, varying symbols that will apply. Some, again, will have to do with support, mobility versus being static. But again, if there is a specific incidence or a specific individual, that will be more obvious to me. In general, there are, again, a multiplicity of reasons.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is I just got back from a trip to Australia, and I spent 4 or 5 days at Ayers Rock. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the energies of the rock and the Aboriginal energy that I experienced there. I know Bashar has talked about Ayers Rock as a power center in previous sessions that I've heard. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about generally what is going on there at this point in time and how it related to me when I was there as well.
Do not have that much to add other than the fact that you will very strongly understand that this area is conducive toward what you would call the heart chakra or heart energy. So therefore, it is an opportunity in, so to speak, bathing or aligning with that energy to allow many things to come to the surface through generally what you would call emotionality, and therefore is a method of catharsis. Did you experience this?
A little bit of that.
Oh.
But also seemed like some ancient memories of Aboriginal culture.
Yes, but that will also strongly relate to what you may refer to as dream time.
Yes, exactly.
The time when there was less of a distinction between what you call nighttime, sleeping dream, and your life dream. So we thank you.
Yes, it was very nice. Thank you.
Shutting. Ace, female.
Hey.
Greetings, but did not mean you. You're next.
Elan.
Ace.
My greetings to all of you.
And to you.
My question is about abundance and deservability and how I'm experiencing it. And I would like to share something with you that happened a couple of days.
Oh, do proceed.
I need to create abundance for myself, to give myself opportunity to do the work that I want to do.
Oh.
So I decided.
First of all, before you proceed, you need not create something you do not already have. Step one is realization that abundance flows through you. And you can, again, perhaps recognize what you already have as an expression of the abundance you already contain. Therefore, you then need less effort to build up something which you are claiming you do not have. So begin to, in that sense, revel in how you have and note how you have already expressed your abundance.
Right, in many small ways and some great ways, I know I have a lot of abundance.
All right, so how do you wish to now continue to create that abundance? Slight distinction.
I think I want slightly more.
then have that clear intention, move through your reality, and keep your eyes open for the very opportunities that will physically seem to allow that. Also, loosen up on how you allow that abundance to come. Allow it to come in whatever form it is. If there is something you quote unquote need money for, in order to then pay someone to provide a service, keep your eye out for individuals that may be simply willing to provide the service. Focus on the end result, not the way to get there. Set it up as a clear intention and then allow your reality to deliver it in any way that it will. The path of least resistance, which is not, by the way, in general, you would obviously all be, shall I say, as you say, winners winning lotto.
All right, I'll finish my story. So I decided to, I don't know if this falls in the category of taking action, but I decided to buy a lotto ticket.
Oh, I did not mean to jump the gun.
So I went in the store and I was trying to write my numbers and pick my numbers. And this homeless person I know walked in and he asked the lady, would she take his food stamps to buy some juice or milk, whatever he was getting. And his question made me think that now he deserves money more than I do, and I didn't.
Now. Look at the definition behind that statement, but understand that you all equally deserve. Take nothing away from yourself in honoring the deservability of someone else. Do proceed.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, what did you do?
I didn't buy the ticket. I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't seem to be right to get it at that moment. I didn't buy. So what about? I mean, if I stop to think about all the other people, then what's this gap that I have about? I know I deserve it, but also other people.
Well, again, when you change yourself, then your reality will seem to change. The idea being that the change will initiate with yourself, and then that will change what you see, what you attract, what you perceive. If there are individuals that come into your, shall I say, immediate proximity, and there is something within you that excites you with your integrity that you can do to assist them, by all means do. But that is truly all that you can do. And in assisting them, being responsible to them, it will still be up to them how they are responsible for your assistance. So again, perhaps one way to say this is that if it is obvious, go for it. If it is not, mind your own business. That is what will behoove you to pay attention to. Did this help?
Yes, and I did think about the fact that he deserved to get that juice and he got it.
Well, all right. There you go.
And I was there to win whatever thousands of dollars, and I.
Well, apparently you were there to evaluate this individual and his circumstances and your own deservability. Therefore, you received a great gift that day.
And I also wanted to share something as some other incident that happened. I work in a jewelry store. There's a lot of expensive jewelry around, and I opened the cases for people and I showed to them.
And someone made off with something.
Right.
All right.
So I was wondering what was, I mean, I could read his mind. I knew what thoughts were going through his mind.
But why did you not trust that? And why did you therefore perform actions inconsistent with what you say you knew? Now, the point is not to judge yourself for doing so. Simply know that you have provided, in no uncertain terms, evidence that your sensings are accurate and that you may wish in that way in the future to act according to them.
Right, that was easy. That I got right away. But did I help him in some way? Did I mean to help him?
Well, in a sense, you may understand that you enabled him to perform an act out of integrity, but that is his responsibility. Ultimately, the realizations that will come at some point in that person's development will have that to have been of assistance to that person. But again, your concern is how does it in that sense relate to you and what can you do? If you see him again, then you interact with him again.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Shedding.
Elan.
Ice.
Persistent.
Greetings.
Greetings. As the Zeta Reticulum are interacting with us, and out of that interaction, your civilization, has been created. It suddenly occurred to me that there might be other civilizations that we're interacting with in the same way. Are we interbreeding, so to speak, with the Pleiadians or any other civilizations?
In the way that you mean, not really. Now, there are isolated incidences. There are particular relationships. But in the way that you are asking the question, in my assessment, no.
Really? No other civilizations?
That are co-intermingling with your own species genetically at this time, no. In your ancient past, yes.
Okay, so not currently.
No. This is, perhaps you can say, the time of non-interference in many ways.
Yeah, well, that's what I wondered about. Specifically, I wondered about the Pleiadians because they're being so human-like, that there would be that interaction to some degree at all.
Well, this is why I have said that there are isolated incidences, but there is not a societal program in that way.
Oh, okay. So there may be isolated incidences, but there wouldn't be interaction that would create another civilization
No.
or anything like that.
No.
Oh, okay.
And you will find that you have common roots to begin with.
Yeah, that's why I thought that it seemed natural that might occur.
From time to time.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Is that all?
Well, the latest drawing that I've done, I actually would like to get your perspective on him.
Well, first of all, what makes you think it's a him?
Well, because I thought it was.
Well, perhaps in your understanding of that delineation, that would not be accurate. And that being would be somewhat androgynous in that way.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense because most of them wind up that I can't come up with the sex, per se on most of them. So I have the idea that he's very that he's aquatic.
Well, in a sense. Aquatic in that way generally refers to specifically water, and that would not be, shall I say, the precise designation. But you may understand that civilization to exist within what you would call fluid environment.
Would it be the environment of the ones that you've been exploring with, that you've been doing some investigation with?
Very perceptive.
I kind of thought so.
All right. I assume you believed it.
Yes.
But the idea is, yes, we did discuss in terms of some of the acclimation process that prepared us to physically interact with that particular society, and that will do as a representation.
Great. Now, my idea of the rest of the body, which is exciting to me because I haven't really gotten an idea of how, a lot of bodies would look, is that, actually, I think I'll just draw. We'll just do it.
And we will discuss this again, yes.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. You have done it all. And allowed your society to see things, perhaps you can say, ahead of the schedule of the mass consciousness. We thank you. Shedding. Ice.
Greetings.
And to you. Good day.
In the last interaction, where we went through the meditation, in my meditation, I was in a place that was actually very beautiful that I've never been before. And it was very colorful. You told us to look at the pictures on the wall, and I didn't see pictures, I saw colors. And very bright and vivid colors. And when I went into the room, it was a circular room. And it was mentioned to me that this was your craft. Is that true?
Well, in a sense, you will understand that our energy was present, overlapping, and was represented in the symbol. Do proceed.
Okay. What had excited me, the vision that I held, is working with divas. And when I was there, I was talking or feeling plant life and animals. And then just before I came back, there were what I perceived as three little people that came over. And my question is, who were they?
In a sense, they will represent what you are speaking of and the initiation of that style of contact.
Okay.
What you would call deva consciousness.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank them and yourself.
Also, I'd like to ask, I believe that I've had 3 separate interactions with you in the last couple of weeks. Am I correct in believing that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And again, thank you.
Well, do you wish to share one of them?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
I'm not sure which one. Actually, the last one, which was when I was going into meditation. I was expecting you and got somebody else who had an Irish accent.
Well, in a sense, that is simply an interpretation, generally with the overtone of alien or foreignness. But you will understand we do not speak the language. However, the point, perhaps one of them being made, is that if you are willing individually to tune into our society, perhaps you do not always know what you will get. There are many individuals in our society willing to communicate with you all.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is it was someone else within your society that was communicating with me.
Aye.
Oh.
Now, what was the message or your interpretation of it?
What was the message or my interpretation of it? That someone else was communicating with me?
Well, I assume when you say communicated that something, some idea, some concept was transferred. What is your perception of it?
Well, basically, I was afraid of it.
And what then happened? Was it forced upon you?
No.
Or did it match your degree of hesitation?
Yes.
Allowing you to know that it is always up to you to go the next step or not.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all?
Oh, one other question.
All right.
Pertaining to my father, he's lack of a better word, died 3 years ago. And what I'd like to know is he's still in the spiritual, or has he reincarnated?
Name and approximate age and time of death.
Milton Pomeroy. He was going to be 65. Time of death, September.
That will do.
Good.
Our strongest perception is that he is, in that sense, soon to reincarnate. That is all we are receiving.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Shutting.
Elan?
Ace.
I'd like to follow up on what Malin was talking about the Pleiadians. When I was in Bali at the channeling conference, one of the channels who was there was Barbara Marciniak, the channels of Pleiadian energy.
All right.
I didn't really get good feelings from what she was talking about. And in the first, her introductory channeling session immediately began telling people about how they should experience and look for the dark side and the black magic that was present in Bali. And
now, do understand there is a positive interpretation of that. The dark side, again, simply representing those things you are unwilling to look at, that you are unwilling to shed your light upon. And therefore, the dark side simply representing those things you still deny, that when you acknowledge, you can then transform. So that area, in a sense, is conducive for the flushing to the surface of much of these ideas, giving you the opportunity to accelerate very quickly.
yes.
Now, pay attention to that interpretation. Pay attention to a tendency to perhaps have a negative interpretation, Understand that from what is said, you will always assign your own interpretation. Therefore, communications of this sort are truly more than one time removed. But do proceed.
Um, there were a number of people there at the conference who were more or less followers of her, the information that she channels, and were almost obsessed with material that she channels about the Pleiadians being lizard-like in appearance. And I know that you've always said that they're very much more humanoid, and
We are not actually aware of any particular race that would fit the quote-unquote lizard description.
where does all that stuff come from?
From your ancient history to a large degree.
And
What you call the symbol of the snake, perhaps you can say later the symbol of the dragon, which is actually historically the symbol of wisdom. But when wisdom, perhaps you can say, became an impediment to certain individuals wishing to control, that the lack of wisdom, or shall I say denial of one's power, enabled those wishing to control to maintain control, there was, shall I say, a negative interpretation assigned to what you call symbol of serpent, and to some degree symbol of dragon as well. That is, from our understanding, the closest source that we can, in that sense, assume.
well, is there
What you call Pleiadians are quite human-like and would be indistinguishable from any other human sitting in this room to you.
okay? Then where is this stuff coming from? Is it filtering on the part of the channel herself?
Do understand again that always only can a communication be made through the existing definitions of any given channel, and then only is it heard through the existing definitions of the participants. So therefore, there may be slight coloration according to the background of any individual, particularly if their background is steeped in what you call negative religiousism and what you call negative predictionism, if there is such a word.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And that individual may very well have a sincere intention, but only can any individual ever express from the viewpoint they are choosing to express, whether they choose that consciously or unconsciously. You will generally find that communications from that stream that you would call Pleiadian, when they speak of your limitations and your inability to overcome them alone, are being filtered. That is not their understanding. They very much live expressing their power consciously and wish to allow the granting of your own sovereignty and your own right to do that as well. Therefore, their advice would not generally be, boy, are you in trouble? You better do this, this, and that. It would be quite similar to our own presentation, though there are some differences.
Her presentation really was not an accurate reflection.
Do understand, however, that you are listening it through the ears of your own definitions. And you will find, if you wish to be most accurate, even according to your own definitions, that there is some information which is applicable and very strongly useful, some which is not. And as we had suggested, if you simply take what applies to you and release what does not for someone else, you can still gain and then actually wind up cutting through the filtration and getting the real communication. If you assume if one thing that is said is incorrect, I will invalidate it all, you lose your own access.
Right. We've discussed that before. I have another question about things that went on during this conference and during the week afterwards. Several people went to healers during that time, and a couple of the healers were Western, either American or other Western culture, and then a couple of the healers were called Balians, which are the native healers in Bali.
And the first of the two balayans used a series of mostly acupressure types of manipulations. The second week, several people went to see an older, more experienced, I suppose, native healer, and he did, I guess, some kind of, I guess you might call it psychic surgery, where he collected like energies into one part of their body and then seemed to actually extract something from their bodies.
Well, understand that that is a co-creation and that the individuals participating are willing to empower that symbol and therefore allow, shall I say, the performance of a quote-unquote process, which would enable them to, perhaps you can say, focus their power in one place.
Well, a lot of these people for the next several days were in some, in varying degrees of physical pain. Some people were actually had marks on their bodies and were oozing blood for a day or more. And one woman got quite sick after seeing this healer.
Well, apparently their particular interpretations of the effect were in that way negative.
Yes.
They created that effect. No one did anything to them. That was how they chose to match, allowing them, by the way, to see certain things about where they're at, if they are willing to embrace the symbols rather than deny them.
Mm-hmm. Well, my question about that is there, when there's such a cultural difference between a person who's going to see this healer and the culture in which this healer lives and practices,
it will be completely up to the individual. There is not, because of the ilk of each society, inherently, therefore, going to be that result. That result was a result of the individuals involved. Other individuals have accessed that particular form of atmosphere of self-healing and healed themselves. Generally, then again, ascribing the credit to the healer.
I wasn't really sure, but it also seemed to me that several of the people who went to these healers were looking for someone else to heal them.
Well, while at the same time understanding or beginning to broach the understanding that they heal themselves. And again, perhaps in this instance to some degree, did not allow the external symbol to be quote unquote successful to bring it back to their own personal self. Will that suffice?
Yes, it will.
We thank you. Shutting.
Yes, Elan.
Ace.
Before you said thank you to me, and my first response to that would be to say thank you to you. But now my second response to that is, you're welcome.
You're welcome as well.
I do have several questions. I am now experimenting with channeling higher guides, and I noticed that there are a lot of guides here in this room tonight, and it seems like there's more than usual. There's something
Well, that will completely and arbitrarily depend on what you are calling usual in a very unusual situation.
more I've never seen as many before.
Well, again, always are there many individuals tuned in on my end, but understand what you are in general perceiving is what you would call your own earthly oriented guides.
Yes.
Understanding that each individual has such access, is it truly that unusual that there would be so many? Now, not that everyone dialogues with them or even desires that type of assistance, but all a guide does anyway is to lure you into more of yourself in a very non-obtrusive way. So when all is said and done, you can still say you did it all.
Okay, that's your own personal guide.
Well, perhaps that will apply to anything you are calling guide. Never can a guide do anything for you. Never.
What about when you channel a guide?
then you are channeling a guide who will perhaps give information. If you do that thing, perhaps you will get that result. If you do not, you will not. So it is you doing the doing, not the trying, the doing and getting the result. Perhaps again, allowing a little bit of nudging, very unobtrusively from anything you are calling a guide. Understand you could perhaps even define your own higher self, since you generally draw a distinction and do not see yourself as the higher self, but a portion of a larger higher self. Understand your primary guide is your own self. And perhaps you may understand that any guide who will communicate to you in any way, seemingly as a separate identity, will come through your higher self. So you are never separated or completely removed from the entire process. Hence, always completely response-able. Is that all?
Can I choose a higher guide that I want?
Well, why not? And who else will? Anything that is presented to you is simply one choice, but ultimately you choose, you act, you get the effect. Again, you contain it all, everything. So you get to, from that multiplicity, pluck and choose the things that are representative of who you choose to be, thereby having a sense of creating your particular result.
Thank you.
And you. And you're welcome. Shutting. Ace, female.
You know how you always say, we say seeing is believing, and you say believing is seeing. Could you also say that believing is feeling?
Well, yes. But ultimately, were you to keep tracing down the line, it will appear in some way in your reality. So believing is feeling, believing is thinking, believing is doing. Your actions are the expression of a belief.
Because I really hope someday to see one of your spacecraft or whatever, but I think...
Well, understand, as we have discussed, that hope generally implies a deal of doubt. Sometimes despair. It would not require a miracle to do so. You need no ray of hope. Have that intention and trust the timing, for it would not appear any sooner to you physically than would behoove us both. That timing is crucial and will only unfold in perfect accord.
Well, I really look forward to that. And I want to ask you a question about a dream that I had. A lot of people that have come to these sessions talk about out-of-body experiences. And the other night when I was dreaming, it was like I was flying over the city and everything was black around me, but I could see the lights below. And I remembered what you said about being in a protective bubble at one of the interactions that we had.
Well, perhaps not protective.
Well, it felt like I was in like one of those, well, those little pipes that you blow on the end, and there's this beautiful fluid bubble all around me. But just as I was beginning to let go and enjoy this, there was this great big black bird with a long beak who was just sitting right there ready to prick this bubble. And I wondered what that was a symbol of my own fears.
Well, to some degree, yes. And again, assuming the necessity of that protection, were you to allow yourself to feel that fear in the form of allowing, perhaps you can say, that bird to pop that bubble, you would have found you would have continued to have the same ability. And the bubble was an assumption of a necessity for protecting. But I remind you, when you do so, in a sense, you are preparing for the worst, though you may be saying you expect the best.
Now, last night in a dream, it was my head, it was myself, but on the reverse side of my head, on the back, there was another face. Instead of hair being there, there was a smaller face, like a child's face. Is that the child who's trying to come out and be recognized?
It was the child that in that moment you were expressing to be doing such a thing that you had not allowed yourself to experience since you physically were a child. For you had these experiences in dreams quite often as a child. And you may understand when you have what you call a flying dream, in no uncertain terms you are out of your body while you are doing that, in the definition that you mean. Again, I remind you, you are not technically within the body to begin with. But from the appearance of the shift of your point of view, it would appear that you are out of the body.
All right, the faces that I see floating inside of me, in front of my face, when I wake up, that aren't Zeta looking with the black eyes, but are real people. Might those be the Pleiadians that you were just talking about who look like us?
For a specific reason right now, I will not comment. So continue to explore.
Because it feels like I should know them, and they're trying to tell me something, and I keep saying in my head, are you the people that I'm supposed to be talking to?
All right, but understand they are not trying, they are doing it. Simply when you are ready, listen, and you will be told directly.
Oh, thank you. Do you have anything to say about the number 55, which I just turned and I was afraid I was never going to make and live through?
Ace! Happy birthday.
You said double numbers quite often are transformational times in our lives, and I just...
You may understand in many ways your life is just beginning. Therefore, allow yourself to express that discovery, that joy, that fascination that is represented by the face of the child.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. You have done it all. Allow that sense of the child to factor into your awareness when, in that sense, forgiving yourself, for you will find the child within you far more willing to forgive yourself in that way. So use that sentiment to your advantage. All right?
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. There will be but a few more sharings. Shutting.
Elan.
Male, then female.
Elan, I had a dream the other day. I've been having a lot of dreams, and the other day I had one that was curious. In the context of the dream, and I don't really remember the context of the dream, but I felt something in my nose. And I reached up, and I could almost feel it, but I couldn't quite get to it. So it took some effort.
Now, you are not simply using this as an elaborate excuse to pick your nose, now, are you? Oh, perhaps you were just scratching.
Well, I finally got a hold of something.
Oh.
And pulled it out, and it was about an inch and a half long, about a quarter of an inch thick, and it had like a root on it that was about another inch and a half.
Oh, how lovely.
And I looked at it and said, "What is the significance of this?" Because I don't have any thoughts of being a detainee or having implants up my nose. And this happening was out of context with the rest of the dream. And I thought, what is the significance of this?
And what did you derive?
Not much. That's why I'm asking.
Well, it is rare that this occurs, but I am as fascinated as you are. But the idea perhaps is, in willing to dig that deep, you will always find some symbol. And sometimes the meaning will be apparent, but if it is not, simply the assumption that it will become apparent, moving on in your business will then allow it in its timing to become apparent. Now, this is doubly reinforced by the fact that I get no interpretation, which is quite rare. Many times I get one and will not share it. But if I am not receiving it, then obviously your timing comes into play.
Thank you very much, Elan.
Oh, thank you for being so picky.
Thank you for being so humorous.
We thank you for understanding the humor. Shutting female.
Thank you, Elan.
And to you.
To go back, I'd like to check a detail of something I was asking earlier. When I saw myself in the flower dress, the first dress I saw was casual and the second was a suit. And I interpreted that because I had been asking about my work and everything that symbolized me and I should be so-called more buttoned up or more businesslike about it. Is that a good, correct or...
What it correctly identifies is that this is obviously an issue within you. But you may understand that you get to choose and that business-like, shall I say, presentation is truly more of an attitude and is perceived from your attitude than what you call physical appearance.
I see.
So decide why you find that to be, quote unquote, more acceptable. If your definitions in that sense bear that out, perhaps that is how you are telling yourself to be. But you may simply find that that is not necessarily how it excites you to express that particular style of, perhaps you can say, authority, and perhaps you can say organization.
That's, yeah. I think for most of my life, I felt a dichotomy about the kind of like the rules or how things are done in society and how I more feel like doing things.
Ah.
And it's been a constant. There's just been I felt for most of my life a lot of tension about that.
Well, again, no one else's judgment has resulted in that tension. You're buying into and matching that. So understanding this, embrace that you have done so, then you can change it.
That's terrific.
And who you are inside is always what will be seen.
It's a relief.
All right. If you wish.
Okay, I'd like to share actually two really quick things. Once we were talking about my mother and things here, and I'd just like to tell you that my mother, she's 71 and she's in love, and she's talking about getting married.
Oh, how exciting.
And it's nice to get to know her as a human being and as a feeling and caring person. It's one of the really nice things in my life right now.
All right. Thank you for sharing. And what else?
Also, the name I got some months ago, it was Shota, Xota. I think that's my name, and also I think it's an Asasani designation. And so I thought maybe that was me as Asasani.
Well, understanding that we have no names and that will simply be more relevant to something in your earth sphere, that will do.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Shutting.
Elan,
Ice.
I had a very general question about how do you go about presenting yourself very confidently and knowing that you're very good at what you do without it really going to your ego or having people believe that you're coming from ego or arrogant in some way?
The idea is that the issue is within you, not them. If you know that you are simply being who you are, no matter what they say, it will have no effect. If it does, it is your opportunity to see where you feel to some degree that you are still operating from what you call ego. But again, I remind you, ego is simply, as you create yourself in portions, at least to this point, the portion of yourself that you create, and its primary, perhaps you can say only, real function is to keep you focused in physical reality. So with that definition, it need not enter into you expressing your abilities and talents with confidence.
Well, I've overheard people, specifically in New Age orientations, where they were afraid to really express who they were fully because of them believing they were either coming from ego or other people believing that.
Well, in general, it is a fear of the very belief they say they wish to express as well. So again, we are speaking definitions. We are speaking a variety of them depending upon the specifics. We thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Ice.
This is kind of vague, but
All right. A general question and then a vague one. All right.
I'm choosing. I could choose fear a lot at this point in my life, and instead of fear, I'm allowing the fear.
By the way, when you do not choose the fear, do you deny it while you do? If so, this is why it seems to keep coming back as an option to choose. But simply when it comes along, feeling it, I emphasize again, feeling the fear, then it delivers a message. Choosing something else in denial of the fear still reinforces the fear through the attention placed upon it through the denial. So when it comes up, trust the timing. Now is the time to fear. Oh joy. I will fear as much as I can. You will see again very quickly it cannot overcome you and delivers with it the definitions that have resulted in that feeling.
Okay, I guess I feel it to a certain point and then I
Squelch it before, in that sense, integrating and acknowledging.
would tell you I thought I was allowing it, but maybe I'm stopping it.
Well, have you ever sat down and worked yourself up into abject terror?
Oh, of course.
Well, then you are doing just fine.
Oh, good.
But understand, the point is not to simply do that and leave it at that, but to then ask yourself, what are my definitions? What are my beliefs? What must I obviously believe to feel this way? And while you are feeling that way, it will be obvious.
Well, I know that I've come to the realization that I believe I'm incapable of taking care of myself. I mean, that's a big one.
Well, that is a paradox, for you are already taking care of yourself.
Right.
So acknowledge where you already do, use that as evidence, and then continue to do so purposefully.
And along with it is this great feeling I have of magic, of the magic of my existence, and that there's something, well, even now, something so incredible.
Understood.
About my life, and that I feel grace.
Well, you have in the table before you both choices.
Okay, so I guess it's like there's something, it's intangible. I
Choose, oh, all right. Perhaps it boils down to this. Choose the magic. Acknowledge the fear. Do not choose the magic in denial of the fear. That is the slight, shall I say, discriminating factor that will make the difference.
choose the magic and
acknowledge the fear.
Now, we could get more technical, more definitive about magic, more concrete. Is there anything you can help me with to make this feeling, this aura, the sensation of the magic around?
Very simply, the statement that though your society does not always express it, it is quite obvious to us and will be obvious to you when you entertain the notion that miracles are quite the rule and not the exception. Most often, your society will assume it to be the exception. So begin to expect a miracle.
Okay.
Not hope for one, expect one.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
At this timing, allow me to share something with you that is, perhaps you can say, synchronicity on the one hand, somewhat humorous on the other, and demonstrates that individuals in your society have the ability to channel our stream no matter who they are. There is a word in our ancient language. It translates to mean roughly in your language. Now it means more than this, but it will translate roughly in your language to mean the sharing of essences. It translates phonetically into your language as the word shuka. S-H-U-K-A. Simply look it up in your article. Therefore, you will understand that individuals need not acknowledge our existence, and still can they have direct access to our stream. Therefore, so do all of you. I thank you for your willingness to share your definition and deservability with us and with me. It is my love and joy through which I function as an ambassador to your civilization. I am no less than that, and each and every one of you are no less than an ambassador for your own civilization as well. It is my honor to interact with you in this way. I continually revel in opportunities to do so. I bid you a most fond and loving good evening.